Happy Monday, people. Happy rivalry weekend hangover day. You guys good? That was
so exhausting.
That was exhausting. That was fun, though. That was entertaining. And we're going to get to what I think was the most entertaining series. But before that, the most entertaining gimmick occurred in the Royals-Cardinals series in St. Louis. AJ, did you like that? Would you be a fan of that? The tarps off section that Ali Marmol was funding?
I thought it was great. I thought it was cool that the random kids showed up there and did it, and then the crowd got bigger and bigger each day. I thought it was great. I thought Ollie Marmol jumping in was awesome. Bringing a few of them into the stands. There's not a lot of people there except for in this section. So you heard all the players talk about it, saying how it was one of the most exciting times of their big league career. I think it's great. The Cardinals are playing well. The fans from Texas apparently are behind them, and then you get all these young kids jumping around with their shirts off, bringing excitement to the park. What's not to like about this?
Kratz?
Your shirts are off. Let's make sure it stays a male section, male only. Girls can have like a big hat section, but to be a club baseball player, to be just a fan of baseball, and then you get an opportunity to do exactly what they're doing, where they're in the clubhouse, they're, rubbing elbows with Cardinals players who aren't really that much older than them. This is a really young team. Like, that's the experience of a lifetime. They'll be Cardinals fans forever if they weren't already.
Such a different vibe when you can get that kind of energy. We've talked about this a lot, AJ. You can't get that energy daily in our sport unless you hire those kids to just come to every game.
They're not going to do that, aren't they? What are they, club baseball players or something? So
from Stephen F. Austin.
But it was super cool that Ollie did this, and maybe it can become like a section or a thing for the Cardinals for the rest of the year. Every team always wants a rallying cry. Maybe this is the one for the Cardinals.
And many teams are good at this. What was it? What was Felix Hernandez's little area? It's been a minute now. Remember?
King's Court?
King's Court.
Mm-hmm.
King's Court. They've got others too for people out there. So when they do create those situations, it's cool. It often happens with starting pitchers. So you get it. How many times does a starting pitcher start a game at home during the year? 15-ish if he makes it through the whole thing. Yeah.
Padilla's Flotilla, when Sal Fasano, they had Sal's pals in Philly. They had I think some of them pop up. Some of them pop up and they're a little gimmicky, but the ones that really hit and are big, like King Felix, that was cool. I think for a little bit, the Julio had the no-fly. He still has a no-fly zone, but they were doing some stuff in Seattle, but it's got to get huge. Like King Felix, they were all had yellow Ks and they had crowns sometimes. It was cool.
Judges Chambers.
That's a fixture. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So it was fun. Yeah, it was a cool story to follow, and that the team was buying into it as well. I like when it's both sides there. The fans were into it, or these students created this college-like atmosphere, and then it was reciprocated with Ali Marmol, who's has a young feel to him. He feels like he can connect with a group like that, and he's got his team playing inspiring ball. Let's get to the big showdown from the weekend. There were many, but this one stands out.
He's charging the mound.
What do you have for us, AJ? Cubs White Sox was a vibe.
This is how it used to be when both teams were trying. For so long, one or the other wasn't trying. And now they're both, and I wouldn't even say the White Sox have really even tried yet. They're just playing really well, and the city was on notice, and it was awesome to watch. The game yesterday was crazy. 3-run lead going into the ninth. Conforto hits a 3-run homer to tie it, and then Edgar Quiro walks it off. It was a good game to watch. It was a fun game to watch. The whole weekend was fun. All the games were really good. The crowds were into it. There was a ton of fights, which I don't condone, but it always happens in the Sox-Cubs rivalry. We saw Pete Crow Armstrong say some things to some fans in the stands. And you know what? That's him. But this was how this series is meant to be. I tell people I played Red Sox Yankees. I played Dodgers Giants. I played Cardinals Cubs. I played in a lot of the biggest rivalries in MLB, and this one to me, those 6 games that we played were the closest I ever saw to playing a postseason game in the regular season when both teams were good and both teams were really trying. It was the atmosphere was incredible, and this is the way it should be.
I never believed it. I honestly never believed it. When you said it, it was like, all right, fine. Like your Chicago-dom makes you say that. I saw it this weekend. I saw what, like, just the energy. Yeah, the games were good. You know, they had the stars. Morikami hits 2 homers in one game. Like the guys that were playing that you would think you wanted to see in this rivalry, in this series, did some cool things. And then the Sunday game was ridiculous. To have that much energy, to have that much in a literally middle of May series, and have the outcomes the way they were. White Sox won, didn't think the White Sox were going to win this. It was awesome. And I completely disagreed with you, but I never experienced it. And I think this is something it showcased what people need to experience and why teams need to try. I get it. The Cubs are just as to blame as the White Sox. The Cubs didn't try for a lot of years. Then the White Sox weren't very good. Whether they were trying or not, they weren't very good. And now they're both good at this point in the year. It was fun to watch.
On the topic of trying, the White Sox signed Murakami this offseason. And AJ, I think it's fair to say that part of it was the rest of baseball allowing the White Sox to sign him for a rate like that. I don't think they were going to pay massive dollars for him. If we could scrap it all and do it again, things would change. It's a big part of it. Another couple homers for him on Saturday. There have been a lot of articles coming out lately on almost every publication that's covering baseball seriously. What happened? Why'd the league miss, right? Like, so I was just reading the one from Sam Blum this morning, for example, and he's going off of, the in zone contact rate the league said was too low, not hitting velocity. And then there's, scouts quoted essentially saying, I don't think his defense is going to be able to make up, or his offense is going to be able to make up for his defensive issues. Some in the league saw him as like a massive liability at first base. Watch him play. Is he the best first baseman in the league? Not close. Is he the worst first baseman in the league? Not close. He looks fine. Average. Good. 40 homers and average defense at first base is worth more than what the White Sox paid for. And to me, the reason I'm bringing this up again, AJ, is I just think it's changed the complexion of the organization. It's sparked things a little more. It's somebody that you can market around and rally around. It's a home run threat. It's who everyone's talking about. And he's not the only one. I know Vargas is playing super well, Montgomery, et cetera, but he seems to be bringing it all together. You're closer to it. You watch more pitches of them than I do. What do you think?
I think he's brought a different presence. He's brought something that the fans can focus on. I mean, him and Montgomery, and listen, I got to give Miguel Vargas a ton of credit here. Also, the average is down. By the way, he's going to be Rookie of the Year, Murakami. I don't care what Jim Bowden says and Kevin McGonigal or whatever. But if the White Sox stay in this race, and they right now are in this race, if they stay in this race and he gets an OPS of 934 at the end of this year, guess what? He's going to win Rookie of the Year. So I'll be right on that one too. K percentage, who cares? No one cares about Ks anymore. Strike out all you want. Just keep hitting OPS at 934. He shows some of the younger guys how to take at bats. He's just been a good presence. And as far as his defense goes, he's playing first base. And I know Ron Washington said first base is incredibly difficult in that terrible movie Moneyball. It is hard, right? But he was a third baseman in Japan. He's moved over to first and been pretty darn good. So I don't know what the miss was here. I'm not a scout. I didn't see him play before this, but we saw him perform in the WBC in big moments. Remember, he got the big hit a few years ago against US to win that game against some guys who have some pretty good velocity, who are major league pitchers. So I'm very happy that he fell to the White Sox and the White Sox were able to sign him, because he has brought a different presence that the White Sox have needed for a long time.
He's talked about it being a big chip to Kratz. So this article talked about Yoshida and even Seiya Suzuki, who's been a nice player, but he was a superstar. And they're like, oh, it didn't translate to superstar. I'm like, all right, well, he's been a very nice player. I know he's lacking a little, especially with runners in scoring position, by the way. He's 5 for 40, struck out in a big spot this weekend. But in general, he's been a plus player, right? And Yoshida, you can make a different case for. Murakami has this big chip because it's not just about him. He was quoted in the story saying, when I came to the majors, my goal was to change the perspective of NPB players in Japan, like perspective of what people are looking at here on position players over there. And he thinks he's raised the level already with what he's shown in the first quarter of the season. Long way to go. But when he talks like that, to me, it makes it like it's personal and it has to do with his countrymen being disrespected.
Yeah, I mean, Seiya Suzuki, I remember when he came over and we had played against him with Team USA, and I was like, this dude's like, he's legit. He looked the part in the sense of speed, zone discipline, like walking more than he's striking out, all that stuff. And he didn't transition. He didn't transition at all like Murakami has transitioned. And so maybe he does have that, like you said, a little chip on his shoulder. Maybe he has that, okay, well, the reason I didn't hit, Erik Kratz said I can't hit 94 plus. Well, you know what? I didn't see it very often. So when you don't see something very often, how are you going to necessarily catch up to it or make the adjustment for it? And everybody who's like, oh, he strikes out so much. He's got great eye. He's got a great eye. People have stopped talking about Kyle Schwarber striking out too much, and Kyle Schwarber has 4 more strikeouts than Murakami. And I think the part that's cool to see him do this is he's doing it as kind of the linchpin for this team. Is Vargas having a good year? Absolutely. Is Colson Montgomery, is he a problem for teams when he's in the box? So you think about him where he's at in the order, but you can't let Murakami beat you right now, and he's doing it. To have this many home runs this early, very few. There's probably better Japanese or players that have done better in America that have come over from the NPB, but to do it right away is so impressive and way harder than people are really giving it credit for.
Yeah, remember, most people in the offseason were like, oh, there's going to be an adjustment. He's going to have to figure out how to time up major league pitching. Not really.
I said it.
Yeah, you were one.
I said it. I talked to different scouts of teams that needed a DH, and they all said the same thing. They were like, everybody's going to say, oh, the big hit that he had against Team USA, it was against Merrill Kelly. It wasn't velocity. And it was like, were they nitpicking things? Were they seeing hitting? And AJ was a really good hitter. He didn't have like ridiculous power like Murakami, but hitting in the big leagues is about making an adjustment. Anybody who teaches hitting and goes, okay, well, you got to swing this way every time. Every time you got to swing one way. Well, what happens when they're just attacking you up top? You got to be able to make the adjustment. And for him to have this much success early, he's already gone through 2 or 3 cycles of adjustments from how the league is pitching him. And he's still bashing dingers.
Impressive. And so are the White Sox right now. Hanging in there. We're past a quarter point of the season. They're in one of the worst divisions so far in terms of wins and losses. AL Central, not good. AL West, not good. And yeah.
When do we start talking about the Tigers being in trouble? Just asking.
When they stop hitting. Oh, wait. That. Now. Different segment.
Goes back to last year, though, where the leagues kind of switched things up, and it's been running that way for a minute. So we'll see. And their record without Skubal, I know he only pitches, once every or sometimes twice a week, but it's not looking good since Skubal left. And you got to be careful. Thinking the whole rest of the league can catch up on you. Guardians offense looks better than it normally does. Let's get to the Subway Series from the weekend. I'll probably sneak in a question to Chelsea Janes about the Nats and Orioles too, but we'll be right back. Some wireless plans can get a little bit crazy, a little bit off the charts expensive. Mint Mobile can get you started with 3 months of premium wireless for $15 a month. That's a pretty good number.
Who doesn't like that? the way gas prices are going up, Scott, we've got to keep our
Mm.
mobile plan down. And Mint Mobile is your location to keep your mobile plan down. You can add family members. You can do all that for just $15 a month.
That's less than a drink in many cities these days, if you like bougie drinks. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5 gigabyte plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Hey, Ken Rosenthal talks a lot about a big series that's firing up this week, the Padres and the Dodgers. To hit the Padres side for a moment, we'll talk Dodgers later. AJ, Padres swept the Mariners. When do we start talking about what's wrong with the Mariners? Well, yeah,
well, we
West
kind of
kind of
already,
stinks.
we kind of already have, haven't we?
Yeah, we have, but also the AL West is terrible right now. So they're like right in the mix.
Did you guys watch the game yesterday? I mean, the Padres pitching completely shut down the Mariners offense. There is no offense on this team at all. It is even, I mean, I know they scored a couple runs late, but it was like they had no chance. I'm like, what are they doing?
They handed it to him. Giolito stopped throwing strikes. They just handed those runs to him, essentially.
I know. By the way, you have a 7-0 lead and you throw a rookie a 3-1 changeup. They even said it on the broadcast. I was like, what are we doing? I think Peavy said it on the broadcast last night. Like, what are we doing? Like, you got to make the guy hit his way on. And by the way, do you guys like the new NBC broadcast? There's a lot of people talking, I feel like.
So much.
It's like, who's talking? Wait, we're going here. And I love Jason. I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot because it's 3 guys. It's 3 people in the booth, then a guy on the field, then someone in the studio. Then it's like, wow.
I did a game package for a long time where it's different people all the time too. I prefer consistency.
I mean, listen,
it's a better broadcast.
I'll give NBC credit. They're trying something different.
It's not different. We did it at MLB for many years, and they stopped doing it eventually. Why? Because it just, once we got a good team together, it was just a better broadcast. It's true.
It was a lot to keep up with. Give me ADD.
Hey, let's talk to SNY insider Chelsea Janes right now about Mets Yanks and maybe a little bit more. Chelsea, great to have you on. And what did you think of the series for the Mets? We'll start there. They win this series. It was exciting. They had the big comeback on Sunday, which they hadn't done in a million years, like 2. But they also lost Clay Holmes. So how do you kind of recap the last few days?
Yeah, Friday night was one of the more depressing nights I've seen around a baseball team in a while after Holmes broke his leg. I mean, they had no idea that was coming until, they happened to go get x-rays and, oh my gosh, their best pitcher is out. Mendoza looked down. It was kind of, it felt honestly like the death knell, right? You're not going to come back and win this series against the Yankees. You don't have your best pitcher anymore. Now this is really over. And then they win Saturday. With David Peterson in an opener, which seemed unlikely. And then all of a sudden Sunday, it's like their best comeback win in literal years since, Pete Alonso homered against Devin Williams in that game in the 2024 playoffs. So it's definitely the kind of game they're going to have to win with the kind of people they're going to have to win it with if they want to get back into this. It's certainly a positive because there's a lot of resilience on display that we hadn't seen from them. But man, when you start to look at the depth and the rotation, the lack of depth, I should say, good feelings all around, but it's going to take something, I think, pretty special for them to turn this into a full recovery.
Was the Taylor home run not special? Was that not something they can build on? Because a lot of teams look for one moment or something like that, and the 3-run homer by Taylor in the 9th, and then winning it obviously in the 10th on the single, I guess we call it, by Benji, or the last inning where the 2 Yankees guys ran into each other. Is that not a moment that can turn them around?
Yeah, if it's not, nothing can. I think you're totally right. It's hard to see, right? It's hard to see how this lineup, as beat up as it is, and the rotation now as beat up as it is, can sustain this. Doesn't mean they can't, but I watched the 2015 Nationals. They had, Strasburg, Scherzer, that whole big rotation. They just kept getting guys hurt. And even when those guys came back late in the season and they were still in it, it took a little while to get them going. So I think I have a little PTSD there of like, okay, you can hang in there, but will Lindor be what you want when he gets back? Is Robert going to be anything? What are you going to get from Polanco? It's not impossible, but it's going to be tough. But you're right. Like if that's not the moment, I don't know what the moment is. So, you'd rather obviously have that than not.
Is there the nucleus to start dominating? Because where they're at now, the hole they're in, they need people that are going to dominate, not just. That's what I would say about the Tyrone Taylor homer. Like it's cool, but you're talking about like a platoon guy. So like the nights he's not starting, how is this? You build momentum by guys that are carrying this team. Juan Soto, and you said Francisco Lindor. Do they have the nucleus to say, man, when these 6 guys are in the lineup, they are just going to carry us for an entire month?
I think there's a world in which they do. That world includes Francisco Lindor coming back. It probably includes Luis Robert Jr. getting healthy, which we all know you can't necessarily count on. But what they do have right now is 2 hitters in Carson Bench and AJ Ewing who look like they've been here for years and are kind of carrying them. And I think, to be honest, have absolutely no idea how hard this is supposed to be, right? Like I think their advantage right now is that they're carrying a team that they shouldn't be able to carry, but they don't know it's supposed to be hard. And they're just kind of having fun and going out there. And, they're good at bats, have improved at bats from Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty and other guys they really need. So, it's definitely a lineup as constructed where if everyone is good and Beatty and Vientos take the next step and, if Bo Bichette figures it out, that's one that I think is really hurting them. Yeah, they can be good enough. They can keep up, if they can, get Holmes back later this summer, then the rotation can keep up. But they're going to have to tread water for a really long time until you get the guys in there, can do it, like the Lindors and those guys. Right now, they're hoping that guys who haven't done it can do it. So far, so good the last week or so. But I don't know that that's necessarily a recipe for long-term success.
Hey, you mentioned Lindor coming back at some point. I mean, I was watching these games this weekend. He was engaged on the bench. Is this the most we've seen him engage? I mean, he was the first one out there. He was banging the dugout padding. Is this what they need from Lindor when he comes, not only now, but when he comes back?
Yeah, it was noticeable to me in spring training as well as when he first got, and he had the hamate in spring training, right? So he couldn't be participating normally until really the very end. But he was pretty absent, for a guy that I had understood was a big part of this clubhouse, and I think is. He just wasn't around much because he was injured. It wasn't his place, he felt, I think. So, and then he gets hurt again and he kind of, has to kind of go and do rehab and he's not a part of things again. So his role in this new group, I think, hasn't really had time to evolve. He does seem a lot more comfortable the last few weeks. I think he's been in the clubhouse more visibly. He's definitely obviously been very active in the dugout. He hasn't traveled with them, so that's part of why you haven't seen him a lot. But the one thing I think has been clear to me about him is even when they're on the road, he's posting on Instagram like big win or whatever it is. Like he wants to seem engaged. He wants to be a good teammate and a leader of this team. And I think it's complicated coming into a brand new clubhouse in a year where, he hasn't been able to play regularly. Cause it's like, what do you do with that? How do you lead when you're in the injured list? So he's been kind of interesting to watch, but I do see a lot more comfort evolving. And, I think him being with the team, being in the dugout is only a positive. He's certainly not a negative presence in any way.
We talk about this all the time, not just with the Mets, but teams that are struggling with high payrolls. Who's the leader on this team when Francisco's out, when Juan Soto's out, and now Francisco Alvarez is out? Like, who is that guy on this team? Because there was some rumblings before that, this team, and then they switched everybody up. Who is the leader on this team to right the ship and make this 10 of 15 actually sustainable for the rest of the year?
I think it's a really complicated question, right? We obviously heard a lot about it last year, and I was not here for that. But from what I can glean, I think there were a lot of people, Brandon Nimmo, Pete Alonso, Lindor, who sort of viewed themselves as that person, but maybe there wasn't kind of one person pulling everyone, the one person everyone followed. Obviously, Soto comes in and is probably the best player, and that complicates things. I think what we're seeing this year is another clubhouse that kind of has to figure out what it is. I mean, Marcus Simeon's a guy who's been around forever and can be kind of a hardo when it comes to playing every day and stuff. But I think he's been on the quieter side because he's not totally comfortable in the room. Bo Bichette, who's obviously had some big hits in his career, I think is still kind of feeling like where he belongs. And Lindor's been out, so he hasn't sort of established himself as the main guy, which I think, given the contract he signed, he is long expected to be. So I think it's Soto, but I also don't think Soto is going to go out of his way to do that. And I say that, and I think people would take that as, oh, he doesn't care about his teammates, blah, blah, blah. No, I just think the best version of Juan Soto is just playing baseball and having people come to him. I think if you've noticed the last few nights, Carson Benj and AJ Ewing, it's like Soto and the white guys in the outfield, and they're like little buddies. And it's just kind of an evolving relationship that's kind of cute to watch. But I think that's him. I think that's his best role in this clubhouse, is not going in and saying, I'm the leader, follow me, but rather sitting in his locker in the corner, letting guys kind of come over, having his handshakes with everyone and just mashing, and I think he is the leader in the lineup because he is the best hitter in the lineup and the one that can carry this team. And I think he is also sort of if not the leader, like the lighthouse in the clubhouse of like, if this guy's good, however this guy's reacting, we can kind of follow him. But I still think this is a group that has a lot to kind of figure out about who it is and who fits where, because, there's a lot of turnover in that room. And the first 2 months, I think you've seen the uncertainty that comes with that.
You answered that question perfectly. Thank you.
Gosh, thank you. Wow.
Answering it without answering it. Perfect. Because we know what the answer is. But I got to go to where basically this series hinged. The bullpen. The Yankees bullpen is playing for the Mets, who then pitched better than the Yankees bullpen, which is now the Yankees bullpen, but was the Mets bullpen. Is there an issue there for the Yankees to get outpitched in the bullpen by a bullpen that has been struggling this year for the Mets, and the Yankees were the ones that, or was this just a blip in the radar and, you know what, we'll chalk it up to that?
Yeah, I think to this point in the season, until about Friday evening, I think the Yankees probably felt pretty good about letting Weaver and Williams go and the group they built last year at the deadline. By comparison, I think Bednar had been really sturdy and all that. I don't necessarily think they feel bad about their bullpen now, but I do think what you saw is I think they just kind of lacked the dominant option back there, right? I think Camilo Doval has the potential, hasn't really become that guy we thought he'd be when he was early with the Giants. Bednar is really sturdy, but he's not going to absolutely blow you away. Tim Hill's been really effective, but kind of same thing, right? He's not an obvious fireman. So I think, in the way that all good teams worry about their bullpen this time of year, the Yankees probably are looking at adding at the deadline. They always do. I don't necessarily think that means it's a problem, but I do think if you look at what is otherwise a very well-rounded team, that's the place you're trying to add. And I just think they need a couple big names, big arms back there so that Bednar gets bumped back and Tim Hill can be used sort of fully in a lefty role. And you can just kind of get the best out of everyone without asking too much.
Does it look like they thought they had a dominant piece in that bullpen, just based on how the season started, the offseason went, and some of these guys were brought over last year at the trade deadline to be that dominant piece? Because if they never actually had that dominant piece, or they thought, well, we saw Bednar as a guy who we know what he did his all-star years and we're going to get back to that. If that's the case, then they kind of built this team a little bit short for what they want to do, is win the World Series, because you need a dominant back, if not 3 dominant back-end guys. No matter how good your rotation is, you need that guaranteed 3 outs in the 9th inning. And I agree with you. I don't think they had that from the start of the year. So is this a construction thing?
I guess yes, but I also kind of understand it. I think one of the things Aaron Boone has said multiple times as their bullpen was pitching really well early, better than I thought based on the names, was like, I think some of these guys are just better than you guys realize. And, Brent Hedrick is a guy like people probably don't think about him much. He's been really good. I mean, he's been a real find for them. That's just like how they operate. Brian Cashman has said, we don't go out of our way not to sign big names for the bullpen. They just haven't done it. And I think, having not been around forever here, that they're just very comfortable trying to see what's available in July. So I don't necessarily see it as like a glaring construction error. I think it's probably a more conservative approach to a group they know they can build on later. And there's this the whole other part of it that I think gets looked over a little bit, which is that they've got a ton of starting pitching depth, which means they're probably going to be able to bump some people back there when it comes to it, right? So, Ryan Weathers has pitched so well, maybe he's now off that list and certainly in the rotation. But if Fried comes back and Cole comes back, I mean, Weathers has looked great. And you can imagine the stuff playing up as a lefty in that role. Carlos Legrand throws a million miles an hour. He's in AAA, a guy who basically played his way into roster consideration in the spring. I think they want to keep him stretched out if they can. But if you get to September, I mean, that's somebody that I think you can see in the back end for sure. So I think they also just kind of see the depth that exists in their system and think they can patch from there. But by and large, like if you had to say where did the Yankees go wrong constructing their roster, I think you point to the bullpen and say this is weaker than it needs to be to win the World Series. But also in another way, it's probably the easiest unit to upgrade. And I don't necessarily think it's going to doom them before they get a chance to do that.
Chelsea, one of your old teams used to cover is the Washington Nationals. Are they for real? Because they're 23, 24. They're around. They score a ton of runs. I mean, if they get any kind of pitching, they win. But are this team for real? Can this team stay around the 500 mark and be competitive and show that natitude like they used to?
Attitude, yeah. I don't know. I don't think they have the pitching, to be honest. What I always thought about this team under Paul Taboni was that they would probably be 10 wins better purely because they have such a clear direction now, because there are so many detailed plans for all these young guys of like, here's how we're going to get you better. Here's the vision. And that just didn't exist before. I think you saw guys like James Wood and now departed Mackenzie Gore just get demoralized last year. Like if you look at the way they kind of fell off, yeah, I just think it was a tough place to play because it didn't seem like there was a way out of the hole there. And now under Taboni and Butera and that whole crew, it's like, here's the plan. Here's how you're going to get better. Here's how we're going to get better. So I think purely on vibes, they were going to get better. That being said, I think they've made people better, right? I mean, their lineup has been really, really good. They've done a good job finding people to add to it who can hit. But Brady House, there were times where he looked like he was totally a lost cause. He's not anymore. CJ Abrams has been good. They've been able to kind of keep him locked in. I just think they're doing a good job getting the most out of guys. And offensively, I think maybe they're not going to lead the league, like they have at times early, but I think they're going to be pretty sturdy and continue to get better. I think ultimately they're going to run out of pitching. I think you could argue they already have if you see the way the rotation's been at times. But, I think they're one of those teams that might be having their good year before you think they are, that they leapfrog a year in development and are a little better than you think. And the real question will be, how do you get the pitching to catch up to where the hitting is by next year, if there is a next year? Because I think that's obviously the part that's going to take a little longer when they get their hands on the minor league system there.
And Chelsea, them coming off a series win against the Orioles, including a 10-run drubbing on Saturday, definitely made them look good and made everyone else pay attention to them, or in the area made people continue to pay attention to Baltimore. So I wanted to finish with that question for you. Are you surprised to see where Baltimore is? I mean, you're looking at a Yankees team just now coming off like one of their bad stretches, 2-7 stretch. They're still in great shape in the AL East, and Baltimore is sinking fast. What are your thoughts on what you've seen from them and how the winning window, if they don't make the playoffs this year, appeared to be a really, really quick one?
Yeah, that's a great point. I am surprised, right? Like, I think maybe I being one of these people, overestimated how much they could count on the young guys, this young wave of talent that came up when it was Rutschman and Henderson and all that. I think their front office overestimated how quickly those guys would become stars or whatever, or that they could become stars. But I also think if you look at what Mike Elias has done year by year, I think he's learned some lessons, right? I think he went out there this winter and got veterans, Bassett, Pete Alonso, obviously, Taylor Ward, Ryan Helsley, people who have been there before, who I think have helped some of these young guys understand what it takes. And it's still not happening. They went out and they got starting pitching. I think their continued oversight is that you got to pay for the big guys in the rotation if you really want to win. And maybe Bassett isn't that, but even that, I think, shouldn't have knocked them down as far as they are right now. So I don't know. I mean, one thing I always think about the Orioles is, and sounds funny, like I've always thought a guy like Tommy Pham, who they just signed to a minor league deal, would be really fun to kind of put in that clubhouse because he is so different than these polished kids who come up in the Orioles system and know exactly what to say to the media and, are kind of perfectly well-behaved guys, which they all are. I just think they've always needed a little edge, right? And obviously I don't think Tommy Pham's going to come up and change their season, but I just mean there's some edge they don't have, and I don't know how you create that. I thought Alvarez might do it. Maybe he is doing it and we're not seeing it yet, but there's just something that misses there with the people they bring in, and I don't know what it is. I credit Michael Elias for trying to figure it out, but I think time's running out because it's just not coming together year after year after year.
My question on this is, Chelsea, you mentioned all this talent they have, but Gunnar is obviously the one guy who's really shined. He's off to a terrible start this year, right? If you'll watch his at-bats, he's hitting balls hard. He's getting frustrated. I think he's putting a lot of pressure on himself to lead this team. Holiday hasn't played yet. Kobe Mayo. Westberg's out for the year, right? Beavers hasn't done a whole lot. Adley's having a nice start, right? It's like they can't ever get everybody to align and play well together. Is that a development thing, do you think? Or is that just the big leagues are really hard and maybe one day it'll come together and we'll be good again?
That's a good question too. I don't know. I certainly think they have had a lot of injuries to those young guys over the years. And I don't know if that's a systemic issue. I know they've tried to make some changes to training and stuff like that over the years. So I don't know. I don't know how much blame sort of they should shoulder for having a lot of pitchers get injured over the years, which they have, and having a lot of these, young core get hurt. The other thing is I do think there has been a lot of pressure on guys like Gunnar and Adley over the years, and they've never quite figured out how to handle it or to take that pressure off. I thought Pete Alonso would do it. Maybe maybe we still see that, but yeah, there's something in these guys that are coming up from the Orioles that is preventing them from playing well consistently and from sort of taking that next step into stardom consistently. And the way I see some of those guys, I think it's pressure. I think it's just an inability to kind of play free at the major league level. Injuries mean that they've probably had a lot more on them than they need pressure-wise. And, I don't know who you blame for that, but I think it's kind of hard to deny, watching them at this point.
Has that question been posed to Craig? Craig Alvarez, the new manager, just came from Cleveland, where everybody would agree, besides Jose Ramirez, you're just getting the most out of those guys. And right now, people would say, well, you know what? Orioles players were really high ranked as they're coming up through. They hit the ball hard. They throw it really hard. They run fast. But the Guardians don't have that in their minor league system, and yet they're winning with players from their minor league system. So has that question been posed? What does he see differently from the people that he saw that come up in the Cleveland system and play in the big leagues and come up through the Orioles system and play in the big leagues?
Not that I've seen anywhere on the record, and not that I asked him, in the winter meetings or anything like that. It's a great question. It should be posed. But one of the things I've wondered is if they're as good as they think they are, right? The prospects, I think it's also possible that they're just not evaluating guys well. This is no knock on Adley Rutschman, who I think is a really, really good player, but it was Bobby Witt or Adley Rutschman, and one of them is a superstar and the other's been trying for a long time. Maybe it's that simple. Maybe the evaluation is just not as good as we think. Obviously, that means a lot of other people who evaluate players, Baseball America, stuff like that, scouts, are also wrong. But it could be that. But I don't know. And Alvarez is someone interesting to bring up because I think it was the perfect fit for them because he could bring some levity and maybe make those guys take it a little less seriously. And even he's kind of run into whatever that wall is of you just can't get it. You can't get them where you want them. So I don't know, but I would love to ask him that. And if you guys get him, you should, because I'd be fascinated.
Yeah. Hey, that's a good point. When you start looking back at Bobby Witt versus Adley Rutschman, you got to nail your high level picks.
See, I can't say that because at the time Adley was like the consensus number one. He's been to
I
the
agree.
All-Star game. I mean, he's done a lot of things. I
Totally.
mean, that's the one. Now, if you want to say they should have traded other people, like if they should have traded Kobe Mayo instead of someone else, or they should have traded Hierstadt and someone else, I can see that. But to go back and say a college guy who was the switch-hitting catcher with power from both sides, who was supposed to be the cornerstone of your franchise, you take him 1-1. Those guys don't grow on trees. I cannot argue that pick because, I mean, listen, Bobby Witt's great, but he also hasn't won anything either.
Sure.
Yeah, but dude, I mean, he's a better player.
No, I know.
Though. I mean, if you
But
could
at the
redraft,
time,
you're
if you
doing
have a
that all
college
day.
kid, if you have a college guy, especially at a catcher like a position like a catcher, that is the hardest position to find in the sport. He switch hits, he hits for power. He's supposed to be an incredible leader. That is impossible to pass up. I'm sorry. And he's made the All-Star team a couple times. Yes, he's been hurt, but it's not like Adley's been an abject failure.
No.
I mean, they just haven't won the playoff games. And so that's the one. Listen, you can make the argument he should have traded this guy or that guy for this instead of this guy. But to say Adley over Bobby Witt, yeah, it's easy to look back now. But I promise you, if you would have pulled 100 scouts, probably 98 of them would have said, take Adley Rutschman.
Totally.
Higher
I think that's
ceiling.
super fair.
I mean, they would have said higher ceiling with Witt. I think everybody would have
Yeah.
said higher ceiling. But,
Yes.
I mean, the other part that AJ didn't even bring up, both extremely high character guys. So you take the
Yeah.
older guy that's closer and you say, I can't argue that. Is Witt a better player? Absolutely. I think if you ask Adley that, you would say he's a better player.
It's good discussion just to look back now at the roster construction and where they're at and how they tanked for 6 years to get to this, and this isn't looking good. So I think they're going to rebound this year and at least be in the mix, but it's getting tougher to say that. Chelsea, really appreciate the extended time. We love talking to you. Love your work on SNY as well. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We love our dog Bella, who splays out in the open sun on our floor like she's an underwear model, and that's why we love her so much, to scratch her belly.
She's a cutie, that Bella. And a quick message from today's sponsor, the ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program. If you're frantically looking for what to do with your pup when they have an issue, the program offers customizable accident and illness plans, making it easier to get your pet the care they need. When you enroll in an ASPCA Pet Health Insurance plan, you could get a $25 Amazon gift card. It's a little treat for you while you're doing something great for your pet. To explore coverage, visit aspcapetinsurance.com/foul. That's aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. Eligibility restrictions apply. Visit aspcapetinsurance.com/Amazon terms for more info. This is a paid advertisement. Insurance is underwritten by either Independence American Insurance Company or United States Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer and is not engaged in the business of insurance.
When we say for the first quarter and sometimes even the first half of the season, it's too early to judge. What the Philadelphia Phillies are doing lately is why we say that. They are 15-4 in their last 19. I mean, AJ, they dusted the Pirates this weekend and capped it off by having Wheeler beat Skeens on Sunday. They're on freaking fire.
They got confident. This is what happens when something changes, whatever it is. We joked about, remember, Cal Raleigh taking the shower, and they changed managers. Not that it was Rob Thompson's fault, but maybe it lit a fire, and some of them people had to look in the mirror, and then they caught the easy schedule, right? Mm-hmm. And then everyone kind of started feeling better about themselves, and this is what the rest of the National League didn't want to see. You didn't want to see Wheeler healthy. You don't want to see Christopher Sanchez, who never gives up a run, right? Painter goes tonight, but they go out, and Harper's swinging it. Schwarber has 20 homers already, by the way. He has 20. They played 47 games. Bohm, Turner, the rest of these guys are starting to get going a little bit. This is what the rest of the National League did not want to see, but they got confident.
Call me on June 1st. Because from now till June 1st, even starting this weekend, the Pirates are a good team. Starting this weekend till June 1st, they have a tough schedule. They're in it. Not like the last 15 games. So, and it's not just Don Mattingly. Ever since they called Garrett Stubbs up, check the Phillies record. I'm just saying, vibes guys in the clubhouse. Their new platoon or backup left fielder, Garrett Stubbs.
They do love him. It does not hurt. Hey, this stuff was coming in late last week, and we got it all together over the weekend. And let's talk about what's going on with Edwin Diaz. Well, nothing really publicly, and I have no idea if he's going to get in trouble or anything, but there seems to be some pretty strong evidence with videos and interviews that AJ, he's into cockfighting. He likes to raise them roosters and have them go at it. And it's not just him. His younger brother, Alexis, who's been in the bigs, is involved. Martin Maldonado was noted in this story. And then so were the two big jockeys that were 1 and 2 in the Derby. Those are the dudes that are the cousins of Elmer Rodriguez, right? That's the whole lineage there. So there's a lot going on here. It goes back really, it first starts, they found stuff back to 2010. I don't even know how old he was at that. I mean, that's a long ass time ago, 16 years ago. But there's him talking about how, like kind of like, oh, good thing it's legal here. It's not legal in Puerto Rico. So I don't know. That's bad info. It's been illegal there since 2019 in all of the U.S. and its territories. The territories was the part that was newer about 7 years ago. So there's been a ton of chatter the last few days, AJ. There's been some articles, not a ton, and I don't know what's going to happen from all of this. I have no idea on like the criminal side of the investigation, how the government works with that, and how the league is going to tie into this. But we have not heard much of a peep besides tons of posts from what's supposed to be Edwin Diaz's Facebook page.
Yeah, I don't want to get into rumors. He clearly, from everyone saying and from things he said, he's been to these. I've never been to one of these. It's not a good look. That's all I can say. If this is true, it's not a good look. And I don't know. I hate to get into rumors like this. It's just a bad thing. And I hope people understand that it shouldn't be done. That's why it's against the law.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're posting and advertising something that's against the law, it's a tough look because it's happening, and it's a tougher look because you are somebody in the spotlight. And when you're somebody in the spotlight, I'm not saying that you need to be held to a different standard, because federal law is federal law, and you shouldn't be like he should be treated like anybody else. But as soon as his, I think, are the jockeys his cousins? I don't 100% know.
Elmer Rodriguez's cousin.
Elmer Rodriguez's cousin. Okay.
Yeah, but Elmer's not noted in this. The Yankees' young rookie.
Correct. But the Ortiz brothers, as soon as they won the Kentucky Derby, as soon as they were 1-2 in the Kentucky Derby, people started going through all of their stuff. Before that, all this stuff had already been posted. So anything, I tell this to the high school kids, I tell this to, different teams that I go and talk to. You're not famous now, I promise, because I don't know you. I didn't know the Ortiz jockey people. As soon as it starts getting out, anything that you've ever posted comes back, and you have to have an answer to it, not a reckoning, and it is illegal. Whether people are going to sit here and say, oh, well, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're right. But there are things that most likely there's some type of punishment out there for people that do this. And so is Major League Baseball going to do something? Have they ever had this precedent before? Everybody knows what happened with Michael Vick and the dog fighting. Is there a precedent that Major League Baseball has to send? That's why probably we haven't heard anything yet, because they're not sure and they have to figure this out. The validity of everything. Was it just pictures? Was he posting it? How involved was he? And that's where the investigation will probably take some time.
USA Today put out a couple articles, and I mean, it is a long list of things that they were able to pull before it was then taken down. So they were able to pull photos, videos. There's also an article from March 10th, and they're basically talking about how Diaz, went to some cockfighting thing on a day, I guess, in between the World Baseball Classic. And in there, that's where the quote is from, where he said to El Nuevo Dia on March 10th, Quote, "It's a pastime I've followed since I was a child. It's legal in Puerto Rico, thank God. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here." So there's also miseducation involved. Like you can say, "Oh no, he knew it was illegal." I don't know. I don't know if he knew it was
Well, I think
illegal.
the thing you have to understand is that it's a cultural thing in Puerto Rico. So
Yes.
people, even though it might be illegal, I think there's a big thing where they're trying to say it's been in our culture the whole time. We're going to continue to do it. So I think that's why some people might not understand that it actually is illegal. Not giving him an excuse at all, but it is
Mhm.
one of those things where they have fought back on this numerous times. There's been lawsuits and other things. If you read about this a little bit, where people in Puerto Rico have said, "Hey, this is part of our culture." Now it's still against the law, but there's a million things that are against the law. Speeding's against the law. Everyone does it all the time, right? There's a million things. Texting and driving is against the law. I mean, listen, ain't nobody on this show can say they've never texted and drove before. So, I mean, come on. Like, there's a lot of things that are against the law. Now, this one's obviously worse than some of those other things that I just mentioned. But if it's part of the culture, listen, I get maybe why Edwin Diaz was a little bit confused, but I just, it's one of those things. It's just a bad situation, and I really didn't want to talk about it, but we brought it up, so we got to talk a little bit about it.
No, and I think for our show, this is where we're going to try to address anything that we can, and we put the segment as spreading rumors. There's a lot put out there. There's a lot on a Facebook page, but it also is put out in articles now in publications that we follow and we
Yeah.
get our news from. So, our fans were looking to us. Can we tell you much about what we think is going to happen? Not really. Like, do you think, if you had to guess, do you think that Edwin Diaz is going to get suspended for this from MLB? It's an interesting case for
Is this
MLB.
as bad as what
If it's
Michael Vick
proven that
did?
he's involved.
Is this Michael Vick territory? Like, it's, I don't know.
Depends on what level, and it's really going to be based on. This is all all the stuff that we're reading about is stuff that USA Today found, posts. Now they're going to have to essentially, in my opinion, they would have to find concrete evidence, not just pictures or statements from him promoting a fight that's coming up or cockfighting that is going to be happening at a certain place. Like, you get it. Like, you are used sometimes as a celebrity to promote things that you're like, yeah, okay, what I know that stuff. I've been to some, but so it's going to be the evidence. And like I said, I couldn't find, after reading these USA Today articles, I couldn't find a case in Major League Baseball that is similar to this. And so you have to look at what happened with Michael Vick. And the NFL and the federal government came down on Michael Vick very hard. So is that the same thing that's going to happen to Edwin Diaz? I have no idea, but for Major League Baseball, it feels like they don't have like an example of something that has happened before in this realm.
And sometimes, from my observation, leagues will try to follow the law first and see if there was an investigation and something followed, right? And it's case by case, because sometimes the law gets complicated and cases take a while, and then teams don't want to be paying players during that time period, or if they have to sit out or take a while. So it gets complicated. I think you guys would all agree. I don't remember a case like this in baseball. I don't remember a case with any animal fighting that's illegal that's involved in baseball, especially not specifically cockfighting. I don't know a lot about it, but I agree with AJ. I don't understand it, but in Puerto Rican culture, it's a thing. And it does seem like there is a subset of people that have been fighting the law that was implemented on them. Like, we don't want that. I mean, you can argue that, but it is the damn law.
Scott, here's the thing. In Spain, bullfighting is frowned upon, right? Ozzie Guillen was our manager. He used to go to bullfights. He used to talk about it. I love bullfighting. I grew up watching bullfighting on TV, and I've always wanted to go. And he would go to bullfights and talk about it. I don't know. Is that the same thing? Because that is kind of not, I think it got banned at some point, did it not? Bullfighting in a lot of Spain. I mean, I know it still happens around Barcelona, I think, area. I'm not exactly sure, so don't quote me. But for Ozzie was taking a bunch of grief because he was like, I like bullfighting, and I go to bullfighting, and I see bullfighting, and I grew up on bullfighting. So I don't know. I mean, unless you can prove Edwin Diaz actually had one of the cocks and made the cocks fight each other, then I don't know that you can. I don't know. I don't know. It's just a bad story that I don't feel awkward talking about.
I think it's something that I know Michael Vick, because of that example, whether people want to make it a linear comparison or not, he got in trouble because of the funding, because of how involved. Ozzie Guillen going to sit in the front row, maybe that's not the same. In the minor leagues, I heard of a team, it wasn't my team and I never saw it. They would go and buy betta fish at the local store, and they would each buy a betta fish and they would put it in the bowl, and whoever would win, they would win money from the betta fish, because betta fish, I guess when they are in the same bowl, or if they're next to each other, or they see their own reflection, they attack each other. So I guess that's a minor league version of betta fish fighting.
Yeah, there's a betta fish thing that I've heard of, where I think it's like two males together or something will fight to the death, something like that. Yep. No, you're not off. And for the bullfighting, yeah, from the team behind the scenes, it's legal in most of Spain, constitutionally protected as part of the country's national heritage. However, the sport is deeply polarized. The legal status varies significantly depending on the region. So just like AJ said, this stuff gets complicated. Whether you are super, super against it or it's not as big of a deal to you because you're like, oh, it's animals. Like, do I think we should be doing that? Nah. I like watching, if you're going to watch a fight, I like a little boxing. But for me, there's not much we can do about this until we find out, right, what else happens. So, and there's not a lot of coverage on this right now, right? There's a couple publications, a lot of blogs and tweets and rumors. So what we do know is if that's a real Facebook page, it was flooded with evidence to be able to show that Edwin's into it. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, as more news comes in, we'll let you know. We got nothing to hide here. We're just reporting on what we do and don't know about the situation. And if there's writers that cover this story, that do an investigation, we will be the first ones to request to bring them on the show. All right, good talk. Let's get to Injuries Suck next.
The best nickname in the minor leagues is now the best nickname in the major league. Jhostnyxon Garcia. The password is up with the Pirates. He came up because Ryan O'Hearn has gone on the injured list, and this is a newfound thing for the Pirates. Hey, a back goes down and you have the depth to replace him with someone who should give you a capable fill-in. Garcia was acquired in the offseason for situations like this. He is AAA depth who should in the long run be potentially an everyday regular in a corner outfield spot. I would not expect him right now to provide the same thump that Ryan O'Hearn was before his injury, but at the same time, he's also going to be significantly better defensively in right field. So there's going to be a little bit of a trade-off here. Garcia had an injury of his own, back tightness, that kind of sidelined him a little bit in April. He's back and full speed now. There's, I would say, solid power here, but he does a really good job of getting to it. And there's not a ton of swing and miss for a guy who does have the ability to kind of go on a home run binge. Solid replacement. I don't expect him to be all of a sudden a game changer for the Pirates, but hey, the Pirates have for years struggled to fill in when they have an injury. This is an example of a guy who should be able to come up and, if not miss a beat, he should be able to provide a very capable replacement for Ryan O'Hearn.
That's Baseball America's JJ Cooper on the password. I think that was the key for me, AJ. Yeah, he's not necessarily going to be the star spark right from the jump for a Pirates team that actually needs a little jump start again. But they used to replace their injuries with guys that, would be instantly to the bottom of the lineup and maybe not ready for the big leagues. This is helpful depth.
Yeah, but that's not. Losing O'Hearn is a big deal for the Pirates. I mean, he was one of their better hitters. So that's a big deal. We just need him to be replacement level. This is where I love WAR, because WAR is like Ryan O'Hearn. Well, who's replacing Ryan O'Hearn? It was like when Mike Trout. Well, who's replacing Mike Trout? I mean, yeah, of course he's not going to be as good. Well, the password, I'm not even going to try and say his name. But yeah, if he can be somewhat serviceable until O'Hearn comes back, that would be a big win for the Pirates. And yes, this is something nice that the Pirates now have the ability to do, is have major league ready people in the minor leagues that can come up and actually help them.
You know where they got him? How'd you
say?
Red
Sox. Yeah. Jhostnyxon.
Okay. You'll handle it then.
From the Red Sox. And this is where the Pirates have to he has to step up. He has to be able to be somebody that not only contributes offensively, because then they're just going backwards when they have injuries. They have injuries. Like that's the reality of it. And they played some tough games this weekend against the Phillies team that was hot.
All right, let's do this. Injuries do suck. There were many from the weekend since we last had our show finish up on Friday afternoon. Let's run through some big ones. Starting with Blake Snell. AJ back for one start. His first start of the season, and then scratched. And we find out that he's going to get surgery for loose bodies in his elbow, which is the theme of the last month in terms of pitcher injuries. That turns into a question of nanoscope, Skubal scope, that new technology that we've been talking about that Skubal underwent, or just the regular one, which would probably knock him out for a few months. He's had this before.
When did these pop up, though? If he was healthy, they just obviously these things just pop up out of nowhere because he came back and pitched to the big leagues after missing. Remember, he was tired at the beginning of the year because he threw how many innings did he throw last year? Like we figured it out, like 100 innings. And he was tired going into the year. So was he hurt and they just didn't mention it, or what happened? Did these pop up in his one big league start that he had? Listen, I love Blake, and I love watching Blake Snell pitch. He's fun to watch. He gets it. He's laughing. He's having fun out there. He's got great stuff. But if there's one team out there that can manage with this, it's the Dodgers. And here we go again with the Dodgers. They just go out and get Eric Lauer, and he'll probably turn into a star too because they pick him up, they figure out something, and boom, watch him go.
Yeah, good point. Good pickup.
And he's a guy that's had success in Lauer. And I think because he was chatting a little bit too much, I think that's why he got run out of Toronto. I don't know. I don't think Toronto's pitching depth is so crazy deep right now with all the injuries that they have that they're like, yeah, we don't need Eric Lauer right now. I think because he was talking and the Dodgers are like, we're good. We can handle that. We're going to tell you exactly, because he wasn't happy with his role all the time in Toronto. He wasn't happy with the amount of money that he got, which I completely agree. I think it was a flawed arbitration system for him, but he's going to have you go to the Dodgers where your role is going to be undefined at any given week because of the fact that they have different dudes that step up in the rotation. And you have different guys that are doing really good in rotation that come playoff time, you're thrown in the pen. So, hopefully for the Dodgers, they know this guy and they're like, yeah, whatever. It's no big deal. We like him. He's going to come in. He's going to fit right into our clubhouse.
Swingman. He's perfect. Swingman with a chip on his shoulder and willing to listen to an organization that knows what they're doing with pitching. And Toronto did too. He was brilliant with them last year. Brilliant. I mean, Ken Rosenthal talked about it on Fair Territory today. Who was it? Ernie Clement said the unsung MVP of the team last year with the way that he would fill in, eat innings, and then, really put together a strong year and made 8 appearances, 6 starts for them. And then they cut bait. It was weird, but it's a fresh start for him. Back to Snell for a moment. Dave Roberts talked about it.
He's going to get surgery on Tuesday, as I understand it. It's going to be to take out those loose bodies, and it's supposed to be a lot quicker, a quicker recovery. So we're encouraged about that, and so expect him certainly back this season. Don't know really a timetable, but I think just kind of with the MRI, the scans, and everything, we feel good about getting back to play sooner than later.
So you going to do the
Lucky for the Dodgers, there's plenty of talent around them. It stinks for them to lose Snell now for a good chunk of time. Glasnow is currently on the shelf. You know who shoved yesterday? Roki
Against the
Sasaki. Good point. The Angels were railroaded. They look currently like perhaps the worst team in baseball. The Dodgers outscored them I think it was 30-3 or something. I mean, they destroyed them. Yeah, it looked like 2 teams on different playing fields. But Roki Sasaki had a career high 7 innings, career high 8 punch outs, career high swing and miss. the whole deal. I know you guys are going to say, hey, take it with a grain of salt, but there's some
Oki
decent
looked
bats
good.
in
I
the
watched
Angels
him this
lineup.
game. He looked good. He looked good. This is the best he's looked as a big league pitcher by far. And yes, take it with a grain of salt as the Angels. By the way, speaking of a bad team, wow. I mean, wow. It's been so long for the Angels. Wow. I don't even know what they could do. What could they even try to do to make this team better? That's the biggest thing. I don't even know.
Sell off all the parts and start again because it's
Well, what
really
parts?
bad.
They do that all the time, Scott. You keep saying that, but what
They
parts?
don't even do. No, they don't do that
Who do
all
they
the time.
have to sell? Who do they have that they could on Neto?
Yeah.
He's okay.
He's the one that I like. I like watching when
he's the
Neto
one guy
plays.
that I would say let's build around him.
Then
Trout?
sign him. They haven't extended him. What are they waiting for?
That doesn't make you more wins. You have guys that are playing on an almost regular basis that, one, don't look like they want to be there, two, don't always necessarily know the situation, and three, this bullpen was supposed to, they were supposed to just build this pen and build this, okay, we got the young guys in this lineup, and now we're going to build around this with this rotation and bullpen, and they haven't done it. It's just no, you don't. No, you trade Neto, and you might as well send Trout with him. I'm not bringing up the whole Trout trade. Yes, no, whatever. But to me, when I watch them play, Neto provides a fire that I do not see from some of the other guys in this lineup. It's some listless at bats. It's some listless, coming into big spots as a bullpen guy and just absolutely giving it up. And it just doesn't look like it's very – the effort level for me is something that I think they've created a environment where you call guys up to the big leagues, ready or not ready. How much are those guys getting sent down because they don't play well or their effort level is lower? I just watching them play, please don't get rid of Neto. I love watching. I will tune into the first pitch of the game when the Angels are playing and Neto's leading off.
And then you flip away. Yeah, we could go all day on that situation. It's say goodnight to the Angels right now. Their season's done. Quick one just to finish up on the two teams in that region. Brusdar Graterol setback. I know we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but he's dealing with a back issue. Back flared up, going for images. It's just a shame. He was a fun guy to watch. Velo was crazy good, and it was down in the last outing. But he used to be that pump a hundo, not actually pick up a ton of Ks, get the ground ball. It was a fun watch. He brought a lot of energy to the mound, but it's been years since he's been able to put together
Can't stay healthy.
some healthiness. Yeah.
Cool. It was a cool story for a minute, but now he can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
He hasn't been healthy in 5 years. It's been 5 years since this guy's been able to pitch. I mean, what are we doing?
It's effortless 100. And it's
Obviously
guess guys, I guess, yeah, you're right. Maybe it is high effort. It just doesn't look high effort. But I mean, you could see when he came up, he had a special arm and he can't stay healthy. That's tough to see.
Next up, Jose Barrios, who has done some good things in the past in his career. I know he fell out of favor with his situation in the playoffs last year, but he's going to miss significant time. It was weird at one point. I don't know if it was connected to this injury. I feel like it was. He was saying he didn't have symptoms, but I think he is now. And either way, they're figuring out what the long-term situation is going to be for him, because it could be as short as a couple months, or he could have some major surgery. It's one of those where they have to go in there to the elbow on Wednesday and see what's up. So AJ, one of the reports there, and the writers are good, but Ben Nicholson-Smith said it could be as long as 12 to 18 months, depending on what kind of surgery. Right. That's the reconstruction. Yeah.
This is the one thing Jose Barrios for years was durable, and now he's lost that durability starting with last year. So hopefully it's the lesser of the injuries and he can be back soon pitching, because he is fun to watch. Kratz just talked about the Angels and how they have guys that aren't exactly passionate. Jose Barrios was very passionate when he took the mound, and he could be fun to watch when he got it going.
It's crazy that he's dealing with this because, like AJ said, he was Mr. Consistency, never on the IL. And then right at the end of the season, it flared up, and now this year it's been one thing after the other. So right now, when it rains, it pours, because he had nothing before, and he would always make his 30 to 32 starts a year.
Next up, position player side. Let's go AL East here. Trevor Story hitting the shelf. They're figuring out if he's going to need hernia surgery. It's been a groin issue. This report from Chris Cotillo said since late April. And then I think Story spoke after that and said even since spring training, he's had issues bothering him. So he's going to have more conversations with doctors. See, AJ, this one's fascinating to me because, Story was a bust as a signing until, he had a pretty good year last year, and the super nerds inside the Red Sox front office thought it was like fake, right? So then this year he's off to a slow start, but then it's like, wait, he's actually hurt. So, because he's been kind of one of those internal battles. Remember when all the stuff came out with Cora getting let go, and there's dissension on, what kind of player Trevor Story is. Well, if a dude's playing with a hernia, it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Story is another guy that just is a warrior, goes out there and plays through all kinds of stuff. So, I don't know. It's just one more thing to add to the Red Sox list, right? Trevor Story, they thought he was good, and I don't know. I hate talking injuries. It sucks.
It's usually a Monday thing, though. There's just a lot of injuries to go through.
I know.
Well,
I know.
Yeah, I mean, he came over there and signed as a durable player, as a guy that went out there every day when he was in Colorado, and he signed in Boston, and it hasn't been it. It took a little while for him to come back from, I think it was the shoulder thing that he had. And, he originally came in as a second baseman, and then they were like, then Xander didn't sign back, and so they had a shortstop of their future. And that shoulder, I think it was a shoulder. It may have been a hip. I'm not 100%, but whatever it was one of those injuries that took a year and a half to get his strength back, to get everything back. And so you saw what you saw last year, and then you'd hoped he was going to build on that and not just, this extra little injury here to start the year and play through it. That's tough.
Yankees suffered an injury. Soon after our show, we learned, Max Fried officially on the IL. It doesn't seem like it's necessarily long-term, but we don't know for sure. Next time, if you guys have him on when I'm not on, AJ, ask Bowden about this situation. Jim Bowden, our guy on the radio the other day, was saying how pitchers don't get a bruise from this type of situation, and they're calling it a contusion. So it almost made me feel like he's not necessarily out of the water on this one, and that, sometimes they're swelling, they can't see everything, and then the swelling subsides and they do another test. So right now he's shut down. Then when he's symptom free, they'll do more imaging. So I actually agree with JB, and I have absolutely no idea, no business saying much medically. I'm just going off what we usually learn, but it doesn't mean that, he avoided maybe some devastation, but you still need to see the next set of imaging from him before you really feel comfortable about him. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to wait a few days or a week or so in order to get the final image. So that's why they say, oh, nothing's wrong. And then a week later, they're like, oh, wait, there really is something wrong. So, yeah, you got to let some of the swelling go down.
Yeah, I'm going to keep jumping. Jose Altuve, grade 2 oblique strain out, probably going to miss like 6-ish weeks. That's how much time Jake Myers just missed with the same injury, who comes back for Houston. Jeremy Pena coming back for the team this week, but they lose Altuve. His power's been down compared to the past, but I mean, he's always a spark plug, and he wasn't bad. He was about league average, so at any moment could have one of those streaky weeks where he hits like 5 homers, and then you're like, oh wow, it's the regular Altuve numbers. So that sucks for them.
Rains and pours for the Astros.
Yeah,
it just keeps coming down. I mean, last year they were like, oh man, if Jordan was on this team and healthy, we would have definitely a different type of lineup. And now Jordan's healthy and other dudes are going down all around him. But the biggest loss here is still with the Astros and their pitching staff. They didn't build enough depth, and they got killed by it. And now they're going to have a sludge of a season. It could be long and hot in Houston right now. So they need somebody else to be able to step up. But hey, you know what? Now they got more at bats for Isaac Paredes and Christian Walker and one of those guys that was going to get traded before. And so next guy up.
Maybe they'll just outscore everyone and crawl back in, since the AL West, look at the records right now. It allows everyone to get hot for a week and
The
get
whole
back
American
involved.
League. The Orioles are a
Yeah.
game and a half out of the wild card. The Orioles.
It's a great call. Couple more on the finish line here. Staying in the AL West, here's another reason why the Rangers can't separate much despite really good pitching. Corey Seager hasn't been himself. Now he's going to see a back specialist. I mean, this is the best hitter on the team. AJ, MRI results pending. We'll see what happens.
Did he have a hip or a back early in his career with the Dodgers? It was like real early, like 22 or 23 years old. Do you guys
It was
remember?
a hip. He had a hip problem.
I remember just being really young, and now that creeps up to the back. You want him to avoid surgery at all costs.
Yeah. Two more. Now National League West for the last two. Chase Dollander, elbow strain. He's going to miss
This is the one
some
thing
time.
I worry about when you do openers with guys.
Thank you.
sometimes. You worry about this because they don't get their proper routine. They say it's the same, but it's not. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not. So he was pitching so well too. This sucks.
Let's hope it wasn't, because it's a little wonky when you get the opener. Like, do I get to long toss? Well, I'm not a long toss guy. Okay, but you're in the pen. Are you in the first inning? Are you double barreling with the guy that's starting the game and you're the bulk guy? Like, this was one of their best. This is their best young pitcher that's in the big leagues right now. And you can't have him start because you don't want him to face the top three guys in the lineup. I just hope, but nobody will ever say, oh, this is why he got hurt. Because everybody's doing it and they're like, well, there's no way. That's why he got hurt.
Well, I think it's why he got hurt. I'm just going to go out
Okay.
and say it.
Yeah.
I have nothing against me, and if I had to guess, gun to my head, I'm going to say yes. They messed with this kid's routine randomly in the middle of the season, and he was rolling, and that's why he's hurt. And you want him to be your number one, and even if you take injury aside, please don't screw with your top-end starters. It's really not that complicated.
But you don't make decisions. Guys in the big leagues make decisions. Front offices make decisions that can derail kids' careers. This is a kid. This is a guy that you were supposed to build your organization around, similar to what they did to Bubba Chandler. I know Bubba Chandler's not throwing strikes in Pittsburgh right now, but you call him up because you're like, well, we want a softer landing spot in the big leagues. Well, we want to Rockies, who cares? You guys are going to lose a lot of games. You're not in the playoffs. If he faces the first three guys in the order, you know what it's going to do? It's going to make him freaking learn how to get those guys out. And from what I've seen, he's super competitive. Make him be a cornerstone of your pitching staff. And if he's not, it's not going to matter that he faced the top three guys in the lineup for all of his starts. Like, stop being super, like, is it going to keep, if you told me it kept him healthy by having an opener, then I'd be like, okay, show me why. Show me why that's going to keep him healthy. And until you can show me that keeps him healthy, then to me, it's just a selfish thing that the front office is doing, saying, well, our algorithm says this, so we should do this. And when somebody gets injured like this, I have a tough time not believing that it's not from this.
I'm with you. It's pathetic. I mean, the Dodgers can help train Roki in the big leagues and he starts, but Dollander can't start. This is the time to let him go through it if he needs to, so that when they're good again, he's been through these situations. Lastly, Heliot Ramos, right quad strain. So he's been a good player for them the last few years, AJ. He doesn't get talked about a lot, but it'll hurt to not have him for a bit of time. The Giants have actually played 500 ball for the past month. The record still doesn't look good, but they haven't been terrible since the start.
Yeah, I mean, they're not making the playoffs, so I mean, it sucks for Heliot Ramos, but bring up someone else and try them. Maybe they'll spark the offense.
Yeah. All right, that was a long list. We got through it. We're feeling good, and we're ready to talk to Stephen Nesbitt next from The Athletic. Interesting article he wrote on some new age ideas to change the game.
The future is now the present in Seattle because Cole Emerson is up in the big leagues, the number one prospect on the Mariners, the number 3 prospect on the just updated Baseball America Top 100 prospect rankings. So what should we expect? I would say with this one, we've had such a great prospect year, rookie year so far, that I would kind of calm things down just a bit with Colt Emerson. It's not that he's not going to be an excellent player in the long term, but he is very young for the big leagues, 20 years old. And he's in the midst so far in AAA before the promotion of a solid year, but not a spectacular year. There is real power here, although it may take a little while to fully appear at the big league level. There's bat to ball skills, barrel control. There's also a little bit of aggressiveness right now. There is the chance that early on he might be chasing too many pitches out of the zone, especially in 2 strike counts. He's going to be a third baseman for now. He could be the shortstop in the long term, although third base also fits very well for him, lefty power bat who could really thump in the long run. He's going to be a very good player. He's obviously a Mariner for the very long term. He's already signed a long-term extension. I would say that it would not shock me if he ends up having a little bit of growing pains at the big league level as he gets settled at the highest level that there is.
And that's our spillover from our injuries suck conversation to Baseball America's JJ Cooper giving us a little bit more on Colt Emerson, who had to like scurry over to get to the game. And AJ, unfortunately, he's replacing Brendan Donovan, who's a hell of a player, and he's been pretty durable, but this year he's getting hit and the groin was re-aggravated really quickly.
Yeah, this is what happens. It happens a lot. You see this, guys aren't fully ready to come back, and stuff happens. So listen, I watched we watched the Mariners game last night. Emerson's got all the swag. I know that. He better hope he can play because he's got, the shadows are out and he's got the freaking Oakleys and all that. He's got the swag. So he's got the big league swag. We'll see.
Got the big league cash too.
He does.
He does. He's got a contract, and everybody talked about his character that I asked about, and somebody said that plays with him right now in AAA feels like he's a Chase Utley type of player. And I was like, whoa.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, let's see, because that's a big comp.
It's a big comp. Chase Utley's gonna likely get voted into the Hall of Fame now. He's trending that way. I mean, the Hall of Fame comp right there. He's a good player though, and him and Cole Young's provided some really big moments for the Mariners this year. That's what they've been excited about. For the people, perfect way to label this one. And he often does articles that are for the people because the people get involved. Stephen Nesbitt with us right now from The Athletic put out an article to the people saying, what rule changes should MLB make? And it was a mailbag to analyze the suggestions. Stephen, great to chat with you. And I want to go right to the one that elicited like the most response, the most fire. There's always that one, right, from your article. So what was the one that we should lead this conversation with?
I mean, there's like the realistic one, and then there's the unrealistic one. Do you have a favorite?
Ooh, AJ, what do you want?
Well, let's do the realistic one first, because the unrealistic one's going to be something so crazy, like a pitch clock.
Yeah. Like a pitch clock. The realistic ones have to do with the pitcher's mound, and that always gets a lot of people going because it does feel like 60 feet, 6 inches in some sort of gospel, but in reality, it was just a distance they moved the pitcher's mound to in 1893 or something like that. They lowered the mound in 1968, as we know, after the year of the pitcher, and there was evidence that worked, right? ERAs went up, batting averages went up, and the problem with that is that it wasn't really a clean body of evidence, I guess, because they also changed the strike zone at the same time. The walk rates went up. It was a more friendly environment for hitters in many different ways. So lowering the mound, I think, would help hitters certainly, but I don't think it is like really the one sort of end-all be-all rule change that would fix the hitting environment completely. The other thing that's sort of the other side of that coin is to move the mound back, which was discussed at length a couple of years ago. It was tested in the Atlantic League. They moved it back 1 foot in the Atlantic League. There have been talks about having it 2 feet back. A little bit further back, you'd be at the true sort of geometric center of the infield diamond. But they really didn't see positive improvement in the Atlantic League experiment. Now the problem there also is that guys can't throw strikes, and so this just made it worse. You had more movement from that far back. So if you couldn't already couldn't land your sinker or your slider or your sweeper in the strike zone, then you have even tougher time from a couple feet back. So they've tested a number of different things, and it does feel like, and you guys can attest to this too, like if you're going to make one change to the game that isn't going to radically change how the game looks, then moving the mound down further or moving it back farther certainly seems like a relatively minor fix from just an aesthetic standpoint, and it could have a positive effect on the game. It also will make movement harder, and I'm just going to keep guessing that pitchers will continue throwing harder and harder no matter how far back you ask them to throw from. So I don't think that problem is going away, that the average velocity continues to climb. As far as more of an absurd thing that drew some attention, there is so much focus still on the extra innings rule to add a runner at second base. That one was probably 2-1 comments versus any other topic when I asked for people's favorite rule changes. Now, if you ask baseball fans, what's one rule do you want to change? Almost every single response is undoing a rule change that already happened. That's just sort of the way we are. We can't sort of get our creative hats on and come up with something super zany. Like one person did on here, which I enjoyed, was why not make the infield dirt smaller to prevent them from backing up? Okay, that's interesting. That's new to me. But extra innings rule is not particularly popular. That Rob Manfred has added a runner at second base, the Manfred runner or the ghost runner, some people say incorrectly. That's a wiffle ball thing. That's really not a person on second base. But it's not popular to have that there, and yet it's successfully getting games over quickly. It's saving arms, it's saving bullpens. And so I understand the desire to have it look more like baseball, and for all the changes baseball has made, the league office has made to try to make baseball look like baseball, right? Don't let third baseman line up in shallow right field, ban the shift. A lot of things they want to make baseball look like baseball used to be. And yet that's one thing with the extra innings. Like, no, we just got to get the games over with. If we're going to restrict how many pitchers can be on a roster, then we want to not be burning guys in extra innings. We don't want any more position players pitching, which is another rule change we can discuss. And so extra innings, the one I went with, people had all sorts of, their version of their favorite extra inning plan. One of them, the simple one, is play the 10th inning normally. Maybe you start a runner on first in the 11th, runner on second in the 12th. There are a lot of different ways you could do it. This person had sort of invented a showdown where the home team, I believe it was, just gets to pick if they hit or if they pitch. There are 3 outs to end the whole thing. You put your pitcher out there, you put your 5 hitters with I think it was a runner on first was the idea. And if the pitcher gets 3 outs before a run scores, then his team wins. If he gives up a run, his team loses. As simple as that. So it would get the game over quickly. Do I think it is going to happen? No. Do I think it's like as Mickey Mouse is what's happening now? Pretty close.
Steven, a couple of things. First of all, lower the mound all you want. Places like Toronto and other places, they'll figure out a way to make the mound still higher than it should be. Because if you've ever stood on the Rogers Center mound, it's like you're on top of Mount Everest and you're looking down. I mean, Jose, I remember you go up there and you stand up there next to your pitcher, and I always had to make sure I was at the top because otherwise I was like 3 feet shorter than the pitcher. And I'm like, this guy's not that tall. Why am I hurting my neck looking up at him? So there will still be people that skirt the rules. Also moving the pitcher, the mound back or whatever. How about we just learn to make strikeouts matter? If you want to cut down strikeouts, make them matter when guys get paid. That'll cut that down. And then the last one, I actually like the Manfred. I wasn't a big Manfred runner, Manfred man guy until now that I broadcast. I think it's great because it gets games over and we don't have these 18-inning slog fest. I'm fine for it going back to the regular way in the postseason. And then the last thing you said was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life, because let's say your best pitcher is your closer and use them in the 9th inning. Well, guess what? Teams aren't going to want to risk bringing in a starter or another guy to pitch that. So that was a terrible idea. Now, if you want to say do the home run derby or something like that, okay, I could deal with that a little more, but the pitchers and the injuries, we already have too many injuries to pitchers. So I don't know, just my 2 cents.
Yeah, well, first off, I definitely did not grade these on realisticness, and I'm not necessarily condoning many of the suggestions. I wanted creativity more than anything. But if I give you this, we ended the All-Star game last year with a swing off, and it was fun. It was interesting. Was it Mickey Mouse, to borrow that phrase again? Totally. Would you, if you're going to go to a sort of non-baseball version of extra innings, If we say you can play other extra innings regularly, or you can have this middle tier, which is what they're doing now, of putting a runner on base in scoring position, or if you're going to go sort of zany to make it an entertainment thing to make people really want to stick around and almost root for extra innings, would you ever go there where you want to swing off, where you want a quasi version of baseball where it's 3 outs to end the whole thing?
I'd rather have the swing off where it'd be more exciting and it'd be over quicker than the 3 out thing. I think a swing off. The problem with the swing off is teams aren't built the same, so your 3 best hitters for the swing off might not be equal on every team. Now in the All-Star game they were supposed to be, but it would have been so much cooler if it was Judge and Ohtani and the rest of the starters that had already jumped on their private planes and flown home.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be cool. It won't happen. I think the best compromise of what you have in order to keep the game shorter and to keep them from going 20 innings is what we have now. Most games, I mean, heck, I don't think we've had a game go to was it past the 14th inning since this rule came into play? So,
That sounds right.
I mean, I think that's right. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's the longest one I've seen. I mean, I remember going 18, 19 innings, not regularly, but every once in a while it would jump up on you. Can't have that in today's game. There's too many injuries already, and we're trying to keep people's attention. So let's keep people's attention.
All right. So the runner at second is called the zombie runner because he died and came back to life. The resurrected runner, whatever it is, it's not a ghost runner. Definitely not the Manfred runner. That sounds weird because Manfred never played, so that's not going to happen. To me, why are all the rules to increase offense when why are the rules that are like gimmicked about to increase offense? Why is that? Because is that more fun than watching a pitcher dominate? Is that more fun than, or is it because of the fact that some of your rules that you came up with here, could we have, more injuries to pitchers? If we have less injuries to pitchers, then maybe we can have just a better product completely out on the field.
It's pretty hard to reinvent the product, though. And so what the league is left with, interested to see if you guys agree, is if the league is going to force something, it can only force certain things. It can't force contact. It can't necessarily force the strikeout rate down. It can really encourage it. But who's to say that they make any of these changes that are recommended by fans here that are intended to bring strikeout rates down, intended to put the ball in play more, bring like stuff and velocities down, I guess, a peg on how dominant they are in today's game. The game would continue to evolve in the way that incentivizes the players and the clubs. Like teams won't be like, you know what? The league really feels like they're really trying to get some more runs across the board, interest fans. They don't like 3 true outcomes. But teams are still going to operate the way they always do. We have a set amount of money to score the most amount of runs and allow the fewest amount of runs possible to win the most games. And so they're going to play the most efficient brand of baseball, and the league doesn't necessarily want that. So are rule changes intended to fix something that's broken in the game from a competitive standpoint, or are they intended to fix something that's sort of broken from a fan perspective? Was the shift moved out of the game because it was ruining gameplay? No. The shift was moved out of the game because it looked bad and people didn't like the way that it looked compared to the game they're used to. And so you walk through each rule change, and I would challenge most people to think through the rule change and think, who was this for? Extra innings rule, it was not for fans. Fans kind of dug the game that won 18 innings. Even as a beat writer, when I was missing like a date night with my wife, it was kind of fun to sit through those and see. I remember like a pitcher playing left field randomly and pitchers having to hit in extra innings in a National League game. That zany stuff was cool. It was like awesome to write about afterward too. And so this was done for fans because this was done for teams because they wanted predictability on when is the game getting over and do I need to make 4 roster moves before tomorrow's game? And it's rare, I think, that Major League Baseball is going to make rule changes for teams and for players. I think most of the rule changes are going to be what does the fan want, which the league has said is the driving force of what the league wants to do.
How does baseball compare to other leagues changing their rules? I follow baseball way more, but the other major leagues, obviously big rule change in hockey was the blue line. They don't have the center line anymore, so you couldn't go. So there was changes in there to create more open offense. Football has changed a ton, but mostly around safety. How is Major League Baseball done compared to the other four leagues?
It was interesting. We wrote a story a couple of weeks back with Mike Vorkunov, who's our one of our basketball writers, and it was sort of the story was like all the juice that baseball has right now compared to basketball, and the premise was like, is baseball sort of re-overtaking basketball as the number 2 sport in the U.S. And that it's interesting. It's like fascinating for me as someone who's covered baseball for a long time, for like the prevailing narrative to be that baseball is doing things right. For a long time, that was not it. That was not the conversation that was being had around baseball. And yet the conversation now is, hey, these rule changes came in and they've really interested a lot of people. There are some stars at the top of the game. There are some interesting teams. You may not like the Dodgers, but I think they're certainly interesting. And so compared to basketball, I think basketball people look at like, this is a game that needs some innovation. This is a game that is running into too little defense happening, way too much scoring, way too much 3-point like efficiency, same conversation. And they haven't yet made big sweeping rule changes to fix a lot of that. Hockey has done a lot of messing around. You mentioned the blue line, the two-line pass, all that sort of stuff. But they've been, I think most of their messing around has been in like overtime and extra inning, the shootout at the end of it. Football feels like changes a bunch of things every year, but is it so consequential that it truly changes the nature of the competition? Not really. It's like kickoffs and things like that you mentioned as far as safety. So baseball, I think these rule changes were pretty radical once you consider the landscape of like these leagues. How often do they change something as big as the pace of play? We've talked about the shot clock or the play clock. That's a long time ago that these were implemented. And so baseball does feel like is the sort of most recent sport to make big changes like that. And so I don't know that the premise, I think, of our previous story, which was about the infield shift and sort of the lack of impact that has had on truly bringing back base hits, which is pretty predictable. But I think fans saw it other ways. They thought that the game was sort of some parts of the game were fixed in some ways by these rule changes. That conversation around the game still is that they're going in the right track. So I don't think that necessarily the league is open to these massive sweeping rule changes that we're suggesting in this story.
By the way, you mentioned that the rule changes aren't made for the players. Shohei Ohtani has his own rule. They made a rule change for him, right? Should we take that away?
Pretty minor.
Or should we open it up a little bit to allow other guys to get to that possibility?
It's a pretty minor rule change in the scheme of the.
No, it's not. No, I disagree, Steven. That's a huge rule change.
Okay, no, hold on.
That's a huge advantage for the Dodgers.
It is an advantage, but it's not a thing that fans care about one iota, right? It is a roster construction rule. That's all it is, right? So it's not something that like you would never ask fans like, hey, how do you guys feel about this roster construction rule or when this guy can come out, whatever. Like, they don't care enough for that to be a consequential rule change is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fair.
It's pretty consequential. It's pretty consequential when it comes to.
Sure. But tell that to fans.
Fans gripe about their payroll. They're not going to be like, oh, they got an extra pitcher. No, actual like players and other teams complain about it more.
Fans are pretty smart.
More than anything.
Yeah, fans are pretty smart. I mean, I remember since I was a kid hating September call-ups because I'd be like, why do the games all of a sudden have all these extra players and they take an extra hour?
You don't say that. You don't say that. September call-ups made some people's careers, okay, Scott?
It was hurting my fan experience, Eric.
It was hurting your fantasy team. That's what it was doing.
So
I'm fine with an extra catcher. 9 more pitchers. No, I'm good. Okay. We can bring up an extra catcher. Compromise. Steven, great article, though. Thanks for joining us to go over all of it. I encourage everyone to check it out in The Athletic. It's posted. There's a lot more in there. Appreciate you, man. Good catching up.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, this is your time to talk about the Tigers, AJ. Are they going to be okay? And they might get rescued a little quicker from Tarik Skubal to stop some skids. He's already playing catch. This was from 3 days ago, too. Barely a week out of elbow surgery. It was to remove that one loose body. And he might beat the initial estimates of 2 months. Maybe 6 weeks is possible. Okay. And it's already been, 2 or 3? So it's almost halfway there. 2 weeks, I think it's been.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's not Skubal's fault, but just watch them play. They are not playing well. They can't. They give up too many runs. They don't score enough runs. They've got some guys doing all right offensively, but as a whole, it hasn't been that great. And they give up. They've kind of been the one thing that Hinch has always been able to do is kind of manage the bullpen and keep them in games, and they haven't been able to do that either this year. It's just been one thing after the other, whether it's injuries or bad performances, and they're not playing very good fundamentally. We need to start maybe having a conversation about they might not make the playoffs this year, and this was their year when they were supposed to be all in because it's supposedly Skubal's last year on the team.
Yeah,
Well.
20 and 27.
Yeah.
20 and 27. But just like I said about the Orioles, they're only 2.5 out of the wild card. And fortunately for them, it seems like Tarik Skubal is going to be back soon. So you still have the Framber, good at 4 out of every 6. Hopefully he's not suspended partway through, during this rotation. They'll hang around. The American League is it's too bad. It's not a good American League this year to say you're completely out of it if Tarik Skubal comes back soon.
It is true. I mean, for all of the grief that the Mets and the Giants have caught, the Giants are 20 and 27. The Mets are 20 and 26. You guys just mentioned the Tigers are 20, 27. Orioles are 21 and 26. But they're in vastly different landscapes. AL versus NL. You got more games to make up. If you're
But
NL.
I also think they have better teams because they have 2 better pitchers. I think the Tigers have 2 good pitchers at the top of the rotation. I think Mize could be really good. What does he look like when he's back?
Who are you comparing them to, though? The Mets have Nolan McLean, Freddie Peralta. I know now they lost Holmes, but they have 2 pitchers.
Okay.
Those guys can keep up with them.
Okay. That's fair.
No.
Yeah, I mean, something different. Something looks different with the Tigers than what looks to the Mets.
Okay. Yeah, the standings.
Fair.
The division.
BetMGM Locks Friday, an L for me and for Kratz. I wasn't on, but I sent in my lock and I locked it in at a time that was less favorable, but we both lost anyway. Good job by Todd Frazier picking the dub for the Yanks, and that's some heavy juice. Usually doesn't go that hard on a minus 150 piece, but he did, and it worked. Same with Pat. His parlay hits. Updated money bags you're looking at on the screen. And Erik Kratz, you're the green. Why don't you start us off?
All right, I'm going to bet against a team that has a tough draw. They went the night game out in Seattle. I get it. It's not as late, but it was the Sunday night game, and then they had to fly back home down to San Diego to take on their division rivals, who they are currently leading, but they're facing Yamamoto. So I'm taking the run line at plus 110 for the Dodgers, plus 110 Dodgers to win over 2 runs.
Wow. Okay. And Michael King on the other side. I was thinking about going for that one on a money line. I went another direction. I'll give you mine after. Let's get to parlay Pat.
FT Nation, what's up? It's your boy Parlay Pap coming to you on this beautiful Monday. Look, I'm going with the Braves in the money line and the Texas Rangers in the money line. Braves just beat up on the Red Sox. Their bats are hot, and Texas is playing Colorado. Pretty simple. I'm going to get plus 224, I believe, and I'm putting 200 down to win that cheese. Let's get that money.
Get it. Good job, parlay Pap. AJ, you're up.
I got a big one today. Brian Wu, 6+ strikeouts against the White Sox. Over 9 in the A's, Angels, and Yurfie. Yes, they're going to score a run in the Guardians, Tigers. Slade Ciccone has been awful in the first inning. And Fromber, you never know what you're going to get. So that gets me to plus 468.
Whoa, 468. You putting a hundo down?
Yeah.
Okay.
And on BetMGM, they give you bonus tokens if you go with the parlays. I mean, that's over 400, so you're in that realm. Love that for you.
Yep. Kratz, I'm going under on the Reds and the Phillies. Painter tonight against Lodolo. I know you don't know what version of Lodolo you can get sometimes, and he's been hurt a lot, but damn, a good lefty against the Phillies might actually be the poison, the kryptonite. You feel like I got anything there?
Lodolo has killed the Phillies. I know he's got like an 8 ERA right now, but he has killed this Phillies lineup, I think 2 or 3 times. So, yes, I see that. I might even do a parlay of the under and a Cincinnati win tonight.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah, I could see Lodolo giving the Phillies fits coming off a big series for them against the Pirates. I know they just beat Skeen, so you're feeling all good, but very different look. Hey, you know the game. It's swing for a shot to win a little prize. If you get a hit, it's the free-to-play swing for the fences game on the BetMGM app. It just helps you with some of what Kratz is talking about, maybe a boost or a bonus bet. Could be a $50 bonus bet depending on the results of your AB. Gambling problem or concern, there's help. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Being in left center field in the studio, just like, man, like this might be the only teammate that has like a true career, like milestone moment that I was a part of, played a very, very small part in that. I went down and talked to him the next day and said, hey, you know, you're welcome. I caught at least 2 or 3 foul tips, you know, to secure 2 or 3 strikeouts. I'll have a medium rare steak, you know, next time we're out. It was tremendous getting to watch him do that. And he's been the same guy since the first day I met him to even talking to him after starts now, 10, 12 years later. He's the same guy, but the transformation has been truly unbelievable. I mean, I knew when I caught his stuff, like, this guy's an ace. He should be one of the top tier pitchers in the big leagues. You just know, you can just feel the stuff back there as a catcher. Like, why isn't this guy dominating? And then come to find out it's because, you know, we were trying to throw, you know, 18-inch vert pitches down in the zone. Well, that pitch plays up in the zone, and his split's way better than we thought. But a career that has really been consistent in terms of staying healthy. He always gives you a chance to win. He just doesn't panic, and it's really crazy watching him too, like as the young, gangly little, you know, baby giraffe out there, turning into like the old giraffe, because he's still a little bit of a giraffe out there, long limbs and all that stuff. But it's fun watching him kind of like hobble around a little bit because he's older and he's put some years on, but he's still super competitive. And I've just so much enjoyed being close to him throughout the last 5 years in Toronto. And man, Toronto, he loves Toronto. And people don't realize how big of a deal Toronto is to him, and how his wife and his little girls love that place. And so, you know, Canadians really, they've done a great job welcoming him. And he says the best decision he's ever made in his career to go to Toronto. That's a big deal. And so, you know, hats off to the Canadians and the Blue Jays for kind of starting that. Hey, we're going to break the mantra of like not being able to get big free agents in here. And you saw that a lot of guys have followed. And so 2,000 strikeouts is no joke.
Hey, we asked a nice and simple question on Twitter over the weekend, and let's do rapid fire reactions to responses from fans. We said, how would you critique your favorite team up to this point in the season? We used a photo of a Mets fan with a brown paper bag over their head, but probably about a third of the league has fans with brown paper bags over their head at games sometimes throughout the year. So let's roll it. Let's just read and react here for the next few minutes and see what we have. And I've been told we're going to start with a photo. That photo is somebody happy and sad. Erik replied, the Reds so far. What was the win streak for them? Does anyone remember? Was it 9? It was at least 8.
They were rolling.
Yeah.
And then they weren't. Then they hit the Cubs. Chicago's a place right now.
They like their
down.
baseball.
Up and down, up and down, up and down.
Mm-hmm. Next up, Tigers. Dana, lifelong Tigers fan. Not going to lie, this year's making me crazy. Lots of injuries, no excuse to the poor play. Too many nights.
There you go. That sums it up right there. That's perfect. Poor play, bad fundamentals, whatever it is. They've had everything, injuries, everything. They've bad hitting, bad pitching. They've kind of seen it all in Motown this year.
Oof, since the second half of last year, this could be a scary trend for this team.
Next up, William. Bleeping destroyed any hope or belief in this team with letting Pete and Edwin walk without giving all out max offers to keep them. Oh, he was talking about Stearns. A Mets fan here. Not happy with the decisions made by the team this offseason. A lot of people were questioning it, and now they're questioning it even more. Actually, to play to that, we didn't cover this earlier, but Jorge Polanco seems to have one of those issues that's not going to go away this year. They just keep getting the news that spills out as guys are hurt that it's going to be worse. So it's up to the baby Mets. Maybe the baby Mets have it. Got to see the prospects shine.
We'll see. Tough division, though, with 2 solid teams in it.
Yes. Braves are great. Phillies look really freaking good right now, too. Next up. Oh, another photo. It's Mark contributing a dumpster fire and writing Red Sox. That would be their offense, AJ.
Yeah. Did you see? I was on Twitter today and I saw Veritek's wife wrote something. It was interesting. If you guys haven't seen it, Google it or go on Twitter. It was something about Jason, why Jason wasn't still in the organization. And she wrote something along the lines of smartest guy in the room, in quotes, smartest guy in the world or smartest guy in the game, in quotes, knows what he's doing or something like that. I forget exactly how she worded it, but it was interesting. So yeah, they've already fired their manager and yeah, it's been interesting in Boston. Dumpster fire would be a mild way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Well played. And I will go look for that tweet after this. One more. Rays, yes. Let's finish on a fun note. Rays 30-15, and they're showing wedding crashers partying.
Yeah. So does that mean is that more what that fan truly thinks it is? Like wedding crashers, like just we're gonna enjoy it while it's here because I don't know if it's gonna continue. Or does that mean like, hey, we celebrate it because we're celebrating everything?
You go to something bougie and you crash it with something that is rugged, and that is the Rays.
Do they keep it? Do they keep it going? That's what
30
that
and
gift
15
may or
pace,
may not be
that's
saying.
impressive.
If their pitching stays healthy, yes.
Yeah, they're not going to win 120 games, but can they win 92 games? Sure.
But where did this pitching come from? They find pitching everywhere. So why couldn't they just keep finding pitching? Hurt them, send the next one in.
Trees, orange trees, citrus, Florida.
Orange.
You know, it's about a week ago in the Oriole clubhouse where Gunnar Henderson fell on the sword in a one-on-one interview I did with him for my Substack and said, I just have been bad for a month. This can't keep happening. I keep busting my butt to turn it around. Felt he was starting to see the ball better. Some hits came, but not in bunches. And then midweek, a couple offers again. But today, 4 for 5, 2 RBIs. He hit number 10. His OPS is 692. Okay, not great, but league average is low 700. So he's getting closer to average. We know he's going to be above average when it's over, or at least we certainly feel that. And guys, 17 games without a homer. That's a long drought for a power hitter, especially Gunnar. Got one today. I hope this is a turning point for him. I hope the slow trend up, and it's been slow, picks up a little bit.
Yeah, and I really like seeing that it was a down and in pitch, the one that we discussed a couple weeks ago in Miami. He was really struggling getting to that pitch. At least that's what I saw if I was doing a scouting report against him. But he pulled his hands in today, perfect on that ball, shot it into right field and upper deck, and really just jump-started this offense. And then after the game, it was really interesting. Didn't have a ton of words about it, but basically he was just talking about how he's trying to get back to being up the middle. And he's been talking about he's been trying to get 10 hits with one hit every at bat, and it's just kind of letting the game come to him. And I think that's what you saw today. He was able to take his base hits up the middle when the pitches presented itself. And in the first inning, he got a pitch to drive and he didn't miss it. And that's basically what hot hitters do, is when you get that pitch you can't miss, you hit it out, or you hit a double, or you hit it really hard somewhere. And that's what we're starting to see from Gunnar. I'm hoping that this is the start of a really hot month, 6 weeks, because when he's going, I feel like he can really carry the offense by himself. And then you let the other guys at the bottom of the lineup, Kowser today with a nice homer and guys putting the ball in play and getting guys on base, and he can just carry an offense for 6 weeks at a time, I feel like.
Yeah, Gunnar Henderson, when he's at his best, he's an aircraft carrier, man. Like he is that force multiplier for this team. And the one hit really exemplified Gunnar Henderson to me, up the middle, where he turns a single into a double, running into the face of that.
Hey, we're back for a few minutes on YouTube. I have two things to go over. Number one, Jackson Holliday's back. It's been a minute, but he's going to make his debut for the Orioles.
Welcome back, Jackson. It's been a long time.
It has.
He's 100%
Jordan
healthy.
Westberg. Yeah, he is. And Jordan Westberg, we found out had surgery. You were off. I think I was off that show too. That was Friday. But AJ, that's a tough one. As Kratz mentioned on Friday, the win-loss record for them, and I know it's not a one-man game, it's a huge difference when Jordan Westberg's playing. He's one of those guys, and now they're not going to have him for the rest of the year, but helps to get Holiday back here.
We'll see what Jackson has.
Yeah. I do remember, are all hamate bones created equal? Because, does it matter? Obviously, for Holiday, it was his throwing hamate bone, right? And for Corbin Carroll and Lindor, I think it wasn't. Does any of that
it's
stuff
more
matter?
the swinging. It's not the throwing. It's more the swinging.
Okay. Just wondering. Yeah, for
it
him.
Would have probably been Lindor and Carroll's throwing hand. So, I assume it's their bottom hand. I've never heard anybody do their top hand.
Corbin throws left-handed. So it's not his.
That's right. Okay.
And it was Lindor's left hand, too. He throws right-handed, too.
Right. So I don't know. Just throwing that out there. There's been some talk about, hey, which hand will affect you more, but the dominant hand for hitting is more what you're looking at, right? AJ, if it's the dominant hand.
It's your bottom hand. It's your bottom hand. It's your bottom hand, and you put the knob in it. That's why you break it. So his just took a little longer. Sometimes they take a little longer than other ones.
Okay.
Not everyone heals the same.
One more. Gio Urshela retiring. 34 years old, about 10 seasons in the bigs. Did you play with him, Kratz?
Oh yeah, I played with him with the Indians in AAA, and then I played with him with the Yankees when he came over to the Yankees. Massive grand slam in the COVID season in that first round series against the Indians. I guess it was the Guardians at that time. So massive homer. Go look it up.
I heard he was a nice guy. He's still alive. He is a nice guy, but I heard he's a nice guy as a player.
Magic glove, guante de magina, the glove of magic, because he could pick it, and you would never look at him and be like, that guy can play defense. Wow, in the games, it was the ones right at him that he would have trouble with. Everything else, it was like, I don't know if he ever won a Gold Glove or not. I think he was a finalist, but he should have.
He pieced together a nice career. He did. So congrats to him on retirement. And Dodgers territory is coming up next. I know Katie Wu's on. We missed her debut on Friday on FT as a host. Alana, Clint, the crew running through what they saw from the Dodgers this weekend, but really also previewing the big matchup between the Dodgers and the Padres. And for those of you wondering, we have a show for almost every team on the FT network. It's not just about the Dodgers. They just happen to be live following our show, but we've got multiple shows per week for almost every team. So if you're looking for yours and a little more coverage, you can find it.